as you were speaking earlier, I couldn't help but notice a distinct accent and curious about your background. Where are you from, and especially what has been your journey to Fort Lauderdale?
Yeah, well, it's a big journey. I'm Hungarian, born and raised in Hungary, and born in a little small village from 100 kilometers from the capital of Budapest. My dad was a doctor in the village, so and he was inspiring me throughout my career because. Doesn't matter, your dad is a doctor, and everybody gonna get sick at one day. But he always told me that yeah, you are no different than the others. I went to same school as the gypsy kids and whoever was in the village. Doesn't matter what's your household income, and that's followed me through my career. And unfortunately, I lost my mom when I was 12 years old. So my dad and I stayed behind, and he never remarried. So we ended up because no one else could cook except in Eastern Europe, your mother. So we started to cook in the kitchen. And when you get to 18 years old or 16 years old, and you need to decide what your future is, I was clueless. I didn't know what to do because you don't decide really. And he said, why don't you do something you love to cook? So why don't you get into the hospitality industry and be a chef? And you can leave this country and you can have your employers paying for your trips, and you can live in a foreigner country. And my answer was back, well, I don't want to leave Hungary. But he said, no, you should leave because there is much more outside what you need to see. So I started my culinary journey in Hungary and started in a dishwasher position. I tell you a story. My salary in 1992 was $50 a month.
Wow.
And it's an eye opening that how many years pass and how you excel from that position. But dishwasher in Hungary, there was no way to excel because you cannot say that I'm from a culinary school and you need to give me a sous chef position. In Hungary, it's always the experience. So you have to start from the dishwash. When you have a call out in garde-manger, then you can go and help garde-manger and cut some vegetables. And when you prove yourself, then you can go to the hot kitchen to do intermediate. Then you can get to the saucier side. And the last step after 2 years is you can get into the butcher shop because your protein is the most expensive item on your plate. So if you mismeasure 8-ounce fillet and you cut a 6-ounce, then you have to reuse that, or that's a waste, which is prime meat and cost. So that's how I grew up. I started to work for Kempinski in Hungary. They were the only company which that time in Hungary, because Hilton was on a die-out basis, so they wouldn't hire anyone because there was no position probably for a year or 2 years or 5 years. So Kempinski was the only company who gave young chefs out of school opportunity to grow, and they throw us in the deep water, and you have to make it. So I worked with them for 5 years and became their sous chef for their fine dining restaurant, which is right now, I believe it's a Nobu. And that was 5 years. And I won a culinary championship in Hungary about French cooking. So I went to train with a sommelier and chef famous chef in south of France, close to Montpellier. Went to Germany for training, and that was done. I was an Eastern European kid who used their limitation of working in Germany, and I had no other options just to stay in Hungary. And Hungary was limited, so you cannot grow higher. So I came as a J1 trainee to the United States, to New Orleans with IAG, with Intercontinental Hotels. And I spoke German and Russian, but I didn't speak English. So came in 1999, started in the kitchen. I guess you don't have to speak, you just need to know how to cook. And I fell in love with the country. New Orleans was, they always said it's not really part of the United States, it's a different country, but I loved it. It was so much fun, so much work, and so much Bourbon Street after work. So, but it was fun. And I wanted to come back to the US because my visa was for a year and a half. So they said, if you transfer with the company, you can come back on a different visa later. So I learned English, and after a year and a half, I transferred to Nicaragua to learn another language, which was Spanish, and started at the Intercontinental in Managua as an executive sous chef. And a year later, I became an executive chef. Did an inauguration of the president for 6,000 people there. And after 2 years, I was done. The chef from New Orleans know the chef in Chicago. So I went up to Chicago and became the executive sous chef of the Intercontinental Chicago. And I was 29 that time, and I was done kind of in the kitchen, because what else are you gonna do? You've done a flagship hotel, and now what's next? So I wanted to go learn more and went outside of the kitchen and became an assistant director of food and beverage. Then later on in the same hotel, I became a year and a half later director of food and beverage, and did that for 5 years. Again, it's my career is your comfort zone. I did chef for 12 years, and you just go on the other side, which is crazy. And you have to learn so much more. And, you know, when you think that you are a king in the kitchen, and you're always complaining about the waiters, now you have to take care of the whole thing. And it gives you a completely different perspective. Then I married my wife in the hotel, sales, of course, same hotel. And we got our daughter born in Chicago in 2009. And that was when crisis hit. And you know what? We still took an opportunity, and we moved on to Florida, to Fort Lauderdale. I started with Hyatt and PR 66 here, 2.5 years as director of food and beverage. Learned a lot from an urban hotel to a resort property. From an 800-room hotel, I went down to the 300, but guess what? It still told you so many new things, because it's just a different way to run operation and clientele. And 2012, when I joined Hilton, the general manager at that time currently is the owner of this hotel. He hired me as his number 2. And again, comfort zone, coming out from the kitchen. Now I'm going to have security. I'm going to have recreation. I'm going to have front office and housekeeping behind me. It was a journey, but he told me a lot and helped me to get on this path. And they 2.5 years later, no, 3 years later, they opened the Conrad, because it's their property as well. And they asked me to be their pre-opening the director of operations, hotel manager. So I took on that, because pre-opening was again, it's so different than running a well-oiled hotel. So I took on that, did all of the spreadsheets, did everything, was getting ready to open when they run out of money. And I had to start the task force. So I went to a small property which called the Diplomat. It's 1,000 rooms with 200,000 square feet as a task force person. Did 2 months there, and they liked how I worked, and they didn't have a hotel manager. So they opened the hotel manager position for me, and they hired me as their hotel manager, and I did that for 3 years. Then 2019, I came back to this hotel where I was director of operations before, and became a general manager, took over the operation. It needed some work, and a hurricane hit right a month later when I start, and pandemic started next year. But we went through on it. We had an amazing, successful year. Luckily, we are on the beach, and luckily domestic travel was up. So room-wise, we did better than 2019. Obviously, we're missing the groups, but you know, it's a true testimonial to the team that we stand up, we looked ahead, and we just get through on this, and we're celebrating this week one of the most successful year for the hotel. In nutshell, that's my story. Sorry.
Impressive. That's just beyond anything I've heard, from an immigrant story to started out as a dishwasher to become a GM of like luxury urban and resort properties in Fort Lauderdale. So Tamas, not many dishwashers can make it to become a GM.